Good day everyone. Today on this episode, I'm gonna share what I have learned in CrimSoc 4 from the beginning up to end of the lecture. Lecture 1, Ethics and Police Community Relation. On this lecture, I have learned the real idea behind those experts that talk about the law enforcement code of ethics by explanation that are given and stated on the notes. It has widened my understanding and knowledge, especially how code of ethics, especially in terms of profession. The fact that I have observed that ethics code of ethics implying a specific profession, and it will clearly given the purpose and reason to do what are supposed to in a good way that are aligned to the profession. Aside from that, the code of ethics will serve them as a guidelines to do their work properly and put them in good path. Lecture 2, Canons of Police Ethics. On this lecture, I have learned the things that are correlated with the don'ts and do in police ethics, because even we are professionals, we could not also avoid mistake that called the ethics of our profession. But when I read the notes, it is a big help for me or for us to avoid such a mistake, because a little mistake can turn into a big one, mostly when it comes to our profession. The worst is a small mistake can destroy the reputation of profession. Kasi as far as I know, maraming chismis nagkakalat about bad feedbacks to profession. Example is the police. Some see that the police down is a corrupt, abusive, and etc. When this police sakop na yun lahat ng taong nagtrabaho bilang pulis, lahat ng pulis at corrupt, abusive, or lazy. So, ang mali ng isa damay-damay na lahat. That's why this canon is important to learn para sa ikakabuti ng lahat ng pulisya. Lecture 3, Knowledge of the Law and Other Responsibility. I have learned in this lecture that there are three knowledge of the law and other responsibility, which is the first, the policeman shall apply himself to the principle of the law which he is to apply. Second is he will make a certain of his responsibilities in this particular field or enforcement, seeking aid of his superior in a matters technically or in principle are not clear to him. Lastly, he shall make a special effort to fully understand his relation with law enforcement in this particular on matters of jurisdiction. Lecture 4, Cooperation with the Public Official. I have learned on this lecture that personal issues must be set aside if you want to again cooperation. Work is work, and there is a time personal issue because it is improper and unprofessional to bring it in workplace, and work it will just a distraction to do your work properly, because working as a team with a cooperation will make the work easy and successful. Lecture 5, Conduct in Arresting Law of Violator. I have learned on this lecture regarding the conduct in arresting law of violator, which is I have understood that police must do their task and works that are accordance with the law and with due regard to the rights of the citizen concerned. In other words, police could not do whatever they want or what they please to do. I have also learned that police shall conduct himself in such a manner as will minimize the possibility of having to use force, which means that if a possible police should not use force in unnecessary, police must be calm and wise towards their action. Lecture 6, Impartial Presentation of Evidence. I have learned on this lecture regarding impartial presentation of evidence, which is a policeman shall concern equally in the prosecution of the accused or for the defense of the innocent. Or in other words, a policeman must be not biased to both sides. Other thing I have found out is a policeman shall ascertain what kind of evidence and shall present such evidence impartially and without malice. As a policeman, it is part of their work to search and find out evidence na makakatulong ma-resolve ang anumang kaso. Lastly, policemen shall ignore social, political, and all other distinction among the person involved, strengthening the tradition of reliability and integrity of an officer word. As a policeman, dapat maging pantay sila sa kahit sinuman, di sila dapat masindak sa koneksyon, kapangyarihan at kayamanan ng isang tao. Lecture 7, Prevention of Crime and Disorder. I have learned on this lecture that to prevent crime and disorder is by means of cooperation of crime and disorder. The police must secure the willing cooperation in the voluntary observance of the law to able to secure and maintain the respect and support of the community. Lecture 8, Unreasonable Force. I have learned on this lecture that improper to use force if it is unnecessary, because force should be used only with the greatest extent and only after discussion. Negotiation and precision have been found to be in in inappropriate or ineffective. Di basta-basta gumagamit ng force ang isang pulisya kung wala naman itong malalim na dahilan, dahil maaring ang paggamit nito ay may turing na degrading of inhuman treatment of any person. Lecture 10, The Community is the Police. I have learned that tinatawag nilang the community is the police dahil alam naman natin ang pulisya ay sila ang nagnanatili sa kapayapaan, kaayusan ng komunidad para sa mga naninira dito. Kung walang pulisya, maaaring ang bawat komunidad ay walang maayos na pamumuhay at pamamalakad ng kanilang buhay. Justice Community. Other police agencies, a court and correctional department, existing and many levels of government are part of justice community with police. Most interact the nature of relationship between the police and members of the justice community has a direct impact on police effectiveness and their goals. Number 2, the human service community. The human service umbrella includes many public and private and social service, resource, mental and health, general service, media, civic and religious, growth and education service. 3, citizen and the police. First, the principal state. The police the most secure the willing cooperation of the public, voluntary observe of the law, able to secure and maintain public respect part of the police community. Relation is the understanding of the public. The police serve on having the public understand the police. That is no easy task. A public is many people with many needs and hopes who live in society and bring to that society conflicting values and cultural roles. The police is relatively close, somewhat secretive, and as to what the police role and the citizen role.